Rare Together is all about bringing together people from across the world to unite them in what makes them unique, being rare together. But that means that a lot of our participants are dialing in from different countries and with variable internet connections. So occasionally, the audio quality might drop a little in this episode. If that happens, we do apologise in advance, but rest assured that anything you need to know, you'll find in the episode description. Hello, once again, and welcome to Rare Together. This is a regular podcast series from LDA Research that explores the real experiences of people living with rare diseases. I'm your host, Andrew Grant, and today we're doing something a little bit different. Now, we all know that rare diseases don't just affect the people suffering from them, they also have a wider impact on their family and friends. And our two guests today are in that category because they both care for others who do have rare diseases. So I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion from a different viewpoint. So let me introduce them. Firstly, we have Candace from Fairview, which is just outside Dallas in Texas. Hello, Candace. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks very much for joining us. And then we have Anna Mae, who lives in Henley on Thames here in the UK. Hi, Anna Mae. How are you today?
Hi, everyone. Thanks. Sun's shining.
Yeah, that's always a good thing here in the UK. You're right. Well, welcome both of you. It's very much appreciated. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. So firstly, I'd like to find out a little bit more about each one of you. Let me start with you, Candace. Can you tell me, firstly, a little bit about yourself, and then tell me who it is that you care for and what condition they're suffering from, please?
Sure. So my name is Candace. I am from Texas. Been there all my life. I have two children. I've been married for, you have to forgive me, I think it's 17 years. I'm not 100% sure. I'm really bad at that. But I have two children. I have a daughter that's 11. She's my oldest. And then I have my youngest who's 7. Her name is Natalie. Natalie is my Cask warrior. So she suffers from a condition that's related to the Cask gene mutation. We just recently found out this condition through a genetic test in January of this year. So, it's been always, a difficult path for, caring for her. And that's Natalie on the screen. She definitely, is a star in our eyes and we really love her. I'm not too much familiar with the entire genetic sequence and genomes or whatever of what is happening or what has happened, but it was pathogenic. I know that. It comes with a variety of many things. She has intellectual disabilities. She is microcephalic. She has scoliosis. She has eye ocular issues, strabismus issues. And she's nonverbal, autistic. So, but I think it's been categorized in the MIC, microcephalic CPH category. So she's got, a small cerebellum pontine. I'm honestly not 100% sure, but that's her condition. So
I'm diagnosed in January. I'm sure you're still learning a lot about it.
I am.
That's interesting. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a second. Thank you. That's a great intro. Thanks, Candace. And Anna Mae, please explain, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell us who you care for and what their problem is.
Everyone, I'm Anna Mae and I'm from the UK. Nice to have sunny weather today. I care for Amber, who's only just turned 4. Amber has a very ultra rare disease called MORP2 related disorder. It's also commonly known as CMT2Z or Big Fan. Typically, this is quite common that you might have a few names for such conditions. So yeah, we were lucky to get a diagnosis a year ago because we are only the second case in the UK. And so there's only, I think, less than 20 globally currently. So definitely rare.
Wow. Yeah. Understood. So,
Yeah,
fairly recent diagnosis within the last sort of 12 months. So, but I'm guessing having spoken to other people with rare diseases, that the road to that diagnosis was probably fairly long. Was that true for you, Anna Mae?
Yeah, I mean, they talk a lot about the diagnostic odyssey, and like I think I'm sure Candice can empathize with the not knowing, and it, it just, because it's so ultra rare, it doesn't present like anything else. So I had quite a long period of being told that it was sort of my anxiety, or I was sort of making things up. So it was quite a hard fight to get people to listen, to advocate for my daughter, because I think as a mom, like I knew there wasn't something wasn't right. And then obviously her symptoms worsened. And we went through, a lot of invasive procedures. And nobody wants to put a 2-year-old for an EMG. I can tell you that, it's really, really awful. But all of that led to a diagnosis. And I think, so for me, and I would say this to anyone who's going through this, it's really important to try and get that, because even though it doesn't come with or any answers. So in our case, it was like, oh wow, this is so rad. It was like, okay. Still, it gives you the basis for the future, for change and for advocacy and for learning, and you know where to start. So I think for me, that was really difficult and really hard, but really hopeful.
I have to agree. I was at her doctor. We honestly didn't even think it was anything rare when we did the genetic test. And the only reason why we did the genetic test is because she had come up with scoliosis at 7, or even younger than at 6. And that's kind of ultra rare to have someone with scoliosis at such a young age. So she went through Scottish Rite, which is the hospital that she's here in Dallas visiting, or with all her treatment from. And they came back with the paper, and it was literally something they printed off the internet and said, like, we've never, we've come across maybe one other case like yours ever. And I think there's only like 300 people globally who have this. And it was just something I even went and found their document online, and I was happy to have the diagnosis. But then from there, it's like, now I'm a trailblazer, and I searched for anything. Like, I went on all social media trying to find any support group, and I did find one. I really, really am happy I found it. But like, to find everybody around the world, and, seeing everybody, these pictures of these children all looking just like with Natalie, and it's good and comforting, but it's definitely been a journey for sure.
Yeah, right. This is what everybody told me about rare diseases. That as you said, used the word odyssey there, Anna Mae, which I thought was very apt. So, I mean, how long in each case were you, when did you first suspect that something was wrong? How long ago, Candace? And up until January. So how long did you have to wait, kind of thing?
So I actually had, she had an abnormal pregnancy, actually. And during pregnancy, she had a small head, and I went to a perinatal specialist, and they weren't concerned. They were just like, she's got a small head, but all children develop differently. And throughout her, infant years and whatnot, she missed milestones, but children are going to develop differently. And you just never really thought that it was a rare disease, because it mimics so much of other things. Like, I just thought she had a severe case of autism, but she had microcephaly with it. And she was actually born around the time of the Zika virus being a big hot issue. So I kind of thought I was infected with Zika, like I got bit by a mosquito. So, it wasn't like anything. At first, I was really, really concerned. I didn't want to, think that my child was not going to be like normal children. And I cried my tears, and I said, well, you know what, though? I've been given this child. She's mine, and I will do my best to be her mom. And, we went through all the therapies. She's a speech therapist, occupational therapist, physical therapist. And I sort of just relented, like, this is, my child and I love her and I'm going to care for her no matter what happens to her in the future. She, is just like any other normal child. But at the same time, now that I know I have this condition and that there's other things I have to watch for, they have epilepsy seizures that develop around her age, actually 7 to 10. They have G tubes. Some of them have gastrointestinal issues. And it's all these new things that I have to like watch for because of this particular brain disease that she has. So it's quite eye-opening. But that's been a journey for me. It just all started from the beginning, and it just in January came to, this is what it is.
Right. Okay. As you say, which was great to hear, at least something specific. So, Anna Mae, how long was your odyssey? All those things that you went through, how long did all that take?
2.5 years, nearly 3, I guess. We had issues. I guess, like Candace was saying, things didn't really add up from birth. And then maybe about 1, we started getting really concerned. We had a lot of false diagnoses as well. So we went for a lot of tests, including life-threatening diseases. So it was a very terrifying period. If you're talking about like Google is not your friend when you don't know what's wrong with your child and they have a health condition, and you don't have an answer. So you look, because you're a mom, you're a parent, you just look for an answer, and all you do is you look for an answer, and that's something that you just keep doing, and you don't sleep, and you don't eat. I mean, a year before, I just used to just spend my time just trying to find answers to questions, and like various really, really big procedures. Amber's had 4 general anesthetics. Like it's scary putting your child, you don't know what's wrong with your child, and then they put them to sleep. You think, are they going to wake up? You go for a heart scan, you think, are they going to tell me, she's not going to be able to live? The weight of a brain scan, the results of a brain scan, there are no words to explain how that feels. And because you don't have a diagnosis, you have no support. So like, if it was cancer, someone would be there and your child has cancer, I'm going to really help you. But, I had no support network. We were in COVID. I was, me and my husband, we were just on our own, really, just going through it. Really hard.
You said something earlier on. You said that during the course of that process, on occasion, some healthcare professionals said, it's all down to your anxiety. But you said you kept on fighting. So when they said that, did you ever kind of doubt yourself or doubt your conviction that there was something wrong with your daughter?
I never doubted there was something wrong. I think you want to believe that your child is healthy, and and that they're not going to be impacted by something that could cause them pain. It's not that I couldn't live with different symptoms, or it was just the fear of A, losing them, or B, them living in some kind of painful situation, and debilitating, and the fear of the future. You have no idea what it's going to look like. And I think even when you talk about support groups, in the case of multi-related disorder, the spectrum is so huge that you can't look across it and think, oh, where do I don't know where I sit. It wasn't like that for me, that I saw other children. I thought, oh, they look, they just present like Amber, because nobody did. So I thought, I don't know what, are they like this child, or are they going to be like this child, or are they going to grow up to be like this or this? And then, the mind plays the games of like speculating like what we're going to have to cope with. And I think that's when you have to bring yourself back to like, today, this is what I can do. I can control X. And so that helped me a lot, like in terms of, don't forget who you are, because not everybody has the answers in rare disease. So you need to advocate, and you can't be afraid to chat to people, even the cleverest of people, even though neurologists who are very, very smart. And it's hard because I don't have a medical degree. So I kind of feel like I've done what in the last year. But
Right. No, I've heard other people saying that as well. Sometimes it's
yeah,
about educating the
hard,
healthcare
really
professionals
hard. Yeah.
experience of the disease than they do, ironically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's change the subject a little bit. So Candace, tell me how Natalie's condition has affected your life and the life of your family. What has been the impact?
So, it's from every aspect, honestly. Like, she controls a lot of anything and everything that we do. I just being on this vacation here, we have all this stuff going on. We're hiking, going, up and down the mountain and going to, places that you would think a child would love to go to. And just like, you know, I'm treating her like she's like a normal child, but I get her into that environment and it's like, no, don't go there. It's completely routine breaking. It is, anomaly for her. She just does not like being in crowds. It's very much mimics like someone with, an autistic spectrum disorder, which she does have,
Okay.
but there's so much of not just, the routine that you have to follow, for her. She just sort of dictates everything that we do. And we had to think about her needs first and foremost before we decide we're going to do anything. She, has, a lot of like certain therapists that she sees that, she has to, learn to, I guess, branch into other things, and they help her with that, at school. She just goes to a typical public school. But those are part of her routines. And then, now we're out of school, we're in summer break, and that's not there anymore. And it's like, okay, and then now I have to change everything for the mindset for the next 2.5 months until I can get her back into her routine. So every aspect of like our lives have to revolve around like her needs first and foremost, only because if we, aren't prepared for it, she'll have meltdowns in public. She, obviously, has to have special like, dietary things, I guess, because she doesn't feed herself. I have to feed her wherever I go. I have to make sure I'm still feeding her, and she's 7 years old because she can't pick up a fork. So I have to make sure that I have all of that prepared. Like I'm still caring for a baby in a way, and I love it, but it's at the same time, like, do I really desire to go and do that right now and have that kind of outing? And I do. So I try to, make it as normal as I can.
I understand. And how has it affected your older daughter?
So she's learning to be a lot more mature than, I think an 11-year-old should be. She has somewhat of a mom spirit. She'll kind of, well, I work from home, and right now, being that they're both off for school, she'll take kind of charge of like, we're still potty training Natalie, so she still has a pull-up. So she'll kind of take charge of like, hey, I needed to go change my sister. And she does that, very well. So she has like, that mom spirit, but I can tell it drains on her a little bit because she still wants to go and play her video games and have her, time with her friends. And, I guess sometimes I take advantage of her in a way that, I probably should be like, no, let her have her child. But she's a good trooper. So, and I think she realizes that Natalie is going to be a big part of her life, probably for the rest of her life. So.
Okay. That's very mature for an 11-year-old. That's very impressive. If you or someone you know is affected by a rare disease diagnosis, I'd like to take a moment to point you in the direction of the Rare Disease Network. It's a private support group on Facebook where we bring together people with all sorts of rare diseases from all over the world. You'll find exclusive research and insight. You'll get the chance to ask your questions to leading medical professionals, and you'll hear some engaging and inspirational stories from our growing community. There's a link to the group in the episode note below. We'd love to see you there. Same question to you, Anna Mae. How has the condition affected family life and other people around you?
I mean, all the things that Candy said, I think it creates, or it forces you to be really creative, and see things differently. So it can surprise you, like the amount of, compassion that, my son, he's only 6, and the amount of love that he has for his sister, it will shock me in a way that I don't know what to, it's just such raw love. And he'll think of the games to play, we have his physio ball. My daughter can't walk. So, like you were saying, everything we have to help her with, obviously from, she has a frame or she has sticks and we have to help. We do daily physio. We do exercises 3 times a day. She's on medication to help her tremors, because otherwise she gets really, really shaky. And so her brother will say, oh, Amber's shaky, she needs medication, or Amber's, if she falls over, which quite often she has a balance, she has ataxia. So he'll scream for my help. He understands. He has this deep empathy. But yet doesn't treat her really any different, to be honest. He just does different games, and he'll push her more than anyone else. So they have a bond that I just never knew, and it's been amazing. But yeah, it impacts him. Again, he's a sibling carer. He needs to be relied upon for lots of things. Can you go and fetch this? Can you do this? Can you get sticks? I can't, can you, yesterday we were doing physio practice and he's videoing her, because I'm I need to check if she's improving, and my husband's not there. So I'm need to video her. And we're so we did all these rounds and he's holding the video. And, but yeah, I think it creates really strong kids, but at the same time, you need to counteract all the things, that they're forced to grow up quickly and take on caring roles that at 6, you shouldn't have to do, so I'm always conscious of that balance. How do I make sure that he's okay as well? Because it's had a huge impact on him, on all of us, my husband, on me, on the whole family, and friendships, and my friends. They don't know how to cope with it, and they don't know what to say, and they don't know how to be of help, and
right.
You don't have all the answers because you're also trying to figure it out, and then other people look to you to do you want pity? Do you want help? Do you want support? Do you want me to be upbeat today? And so it's constant emotional roller coaster through together. And I just say to my friends, I'm most of the time I'm really positive. I like to try and remain super positive. And then I just go oh, I can't take any more. Have a total meltdown. And then it's
So I was just going to ask about other people. And apart from yourself, your husband, do you have anybody else who can kind of offer response support in any way? Or is it just the 3 of you, the 4 of you, sorry, coping together?
Yeah, unfortunately, I lost my dad, who's, my sort of mental, the year Emma was born. So that was really tough on my family. My obviously my mum was grieving her partner, her whole life since she was 18. So, she was grieving, I was grieving, and yeah, my siblings are international. So my sister's in New Zealand and my brother's from America. So yeah, so not a lot of close family. I think I created my own support network. I have some really incredible friends who, when 2:00 in the morning when I had to drop off my son because I had to get out to hospital, they would just come around, and they're your lifeline, and then you create these networks. And yeah, even though people are distant, my sister's amazing. They've helped set up a foundation for Amber, for more cure for everyone else who is going to be finding out about this condition and having no information. So they're working away in the scenes, setting up a medical advisory board. And so yeah, big shout out to them for being, rock stars. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. Sorry, I interrupted you, Candace. You were going to say something about
So
something.
I was just absolutely agreeing with her on like the concepts that she was saying prior to the question on how um so much of like the family dynamic and everything is changing. And I also have a big support here for Natalie. I mean, it's me, my husband, and my oldest daughter, but my parents are a huge factor in my Natalie's life. They care for her when we're working. And then we have a big church group as well that helps out a lot. So um I uh have a member in my church that has a child with Down syndrome. So they really empathize seeing Natalie, and um it's so good to see that, that kind of support exists as well for others. So, and even, if you can't create it like through community, to start it on yourself, like Anna Mae is doing, that's really wonderful.
Mm, yeah, understood. I can see that. I want to talk for a second about support groups. I know we touched on support groups before, but how I think you seem to have slightly different experiences of them. Candace, you said that it was fantastic to find them, and they have been very supportive. But I think you said, Anna Mae, that although you were glad to find it, that there wasn't an easy way of kind of categorizing your daughter's condition compared to other people. So it's been a slightly different experience, I think. I'll start with you, Candace. So what has the support group given you? What benefits has the support group given you?
So, I've found that the support group actually has connections with people who want to do research for the disease. And I do believe that there was actually, again, it's all medical terms. I'm not really quite sure, but there was a study for it done recently, and that was published on the Facebook group. It's actually kind of confidential, so I really don't know if I should talk too much about it. But it's very hopeful to see that there is people out there who want us to complete like those surveys on the NORD website and get all of that information put out there so they could do the research for the condition. And that Facebook page I found has a lot of that content, as well as just seeing the people all over the world. There's families from the UK, there's families from Australia, Brazil, United States. And in fact, I met a little girl with the same condition 45 minutes away from where I live. And she was just completely like, I can't believe I found someone so close. And she's like, the closest person at the time before we met to her was like in Houston, which was 5 hours away. So it's, not as ultra rare, but it's still very rare, and defines that, we're all connecting in ways and learning how people are dealing with like certain things. Like I have a concern right now. My daughter might have sleep apnea. She snores like an old man when she's asleep and gasps for air. And so I asked, or I've been looking at the Facebook group, and I find that this is something very common among these children. And so a lot of them get this kind of, surgery taken, the tonsils and adenoids out to, correct that or whatever. And that's really good for me to kind of see like what others have done. So, and then also be that support, because I have my child's a little older than the one that lives close to me, who's 3 only. So to have, her to say, hey, what has Natalie done? How's Natalie faring here? I could give that feedback.
Right. Okay. So it's that important as well to be able to to feed back as well as to kind of take advice. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. What about you, Anna Mae? It sounded like you had a slightly different experience because, as I said, you weren't able to categorize your daughter in the same way.
Yeah, I guess that was an initial. I think it's an evolving experience for me, and so subsequently, I have found the parents in different countries, which is a bit crazy, and so they give me an incredible amount of support when we send each other videos, and like, even though the symptoms aren't necessarily the same, because of the way that multi-related disorder spectrum is so great. I think it's just knowing that we can all look to support and research together, because it is still the answers to help our children are all come from this gene, and we need to understand it better to help all of us. So I think that binds us as a community. So it doesn't matter where your mutation sits, but you're bound together by this condition. So I think there's just that natural bond, which you feel, and people, they understand, people that understand what you're going through, and you don't have to explain. That's nice. You can just be silent, and they can say, yeah, I know, I know what a bad day looks like. I know what joy you can get, that nobody else can experience the joy of, like, the simplest thing, like, that you never thought your child would be able to do, and then they do it, and you're like,
Well, yeah,
I have that same thing. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that, actually. I was going to leave that until the end, but as you said, so obviously what a lot of people think is, it's all about, kind of doom and gloom and the difficulties and hardships and so on. But I get the impression there are some positive sides to it as well. So, tell me a little bit more about what you were just saying, Anna Mae, about those moments.
Yeah, I was trying to explain. I mean, just recently, my little girl learned to, like, do Magnus house, and she built this huge tower, and we never knew because she has nerve damage in her hands, so so we just never knew she would be able to do things like that. And she drew a perfect X. We didn't think she would be able to write, because she got this medication, and it was experimental. We never knew. And so I think what it's taught me is, like, that there are no boundaries to what hope could do. Like, if you hope, and then you're resourceful, and then don't just think there's nothing, because there's always something. You have to just believe and fight, and things come, and things can get better. And the environment for rare diseases, it's so amazing what people are doing. The research, we had a research study done on Amber. It was the first ever with other kids that participated, and then we got a baseline, and we're trying to look at more research studies through the work we're doing with the foundation, and we found the most amazing medical people who want to help us. And I think then you feel like you gain the again, and there are no words. No one can understand what that means. Like, in terms of, it's just unbelievable. Like, I'm just so proud. I'm so proud of her. All the time. I'm proud of her. Yeah.
Okay. Candace, you were nodding your head there. So tell me about those moments. Joy.
It's going to seem silly, but, like, when I see my daughter flip a light switch on and off for the first time, I'm literally, like, jumping for joy. When I can see her following a direction, like, just simply sit down at the table, and she does it. I'm like, yes, I can't believe she understood me, because for the beginning of this, I didn't know she was even comprehending anything I said. Like, no direction taking, nothing, at the beginning of this. And I know her schools and the therapists that she works with are all part of that. She has an iPad that helps her communicate, where she can tap yes, no's, and hungry and kind of stuff. And I really hope to see that further develop. So she does have a form of communication. She'll likely never talk. But I mean, the understanding part, and telling her to do simple commands. I mean, it's this, I'm just, my mind blown, and I mean, some people they're like, she just turned the light switch on and off. Who cares? No, that's huge to me. And then maybe one day she might say, I love you. Who knows, but I mean, I just want, those little small moments that, she's doing these things and she's able to do them. It to me is a big milestone for her. And I absolutely cherish every one of them when I see her doing that. And that's the recent thing, is she's flipping light switches on and off in the house. And so it can get annoying now, but when she was doing it, initially was awesome. I was like, I can't believe she did that. So, and the next thing I know, she's going to open doors and then shut doors. And I'm like, no, don't leave. But they're huge.
Right,
They
okay.
really are.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's. I mean, while you're both talking there, I'm thinking, okay, well, how is this different from a child when they first take their first steps and so on? But I can see that, but actually, it's a lot bigger than that because you didn't necessarily have those expectations. Whereas, for most kids, we all expect they're going to take their first steps at some point. But what you seem to be saying to me is that because you don't know how they're going to develop when they do those things, it's an even bigger revelation. Have I understood that correctly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I can comment on the first steps because Anna hasn't done her independent first steps. So, if you think you take your first steps and it just happens, and the miracle that is our bodies, we actually have the balance and the muscle, and then you not being able to take the first steps and hundreds and thousands of hours of therapies and swimming and we do everything that we could possibly do that's enable our child to be mobile because it's so important for health. You are mobile. And she could never push on a trike, and she just recently learned to do it.
Yeah.
You just,
I know what you mean.
Someone's done, it's like a miracle. It is a miracle for us and it's a miracle for them. And it's different. There are no, it's hard to describe the feeling.
It is. You're absolutely right. I can't get my child on a tricycle. I mean, she will never, I don't expect her to ever do it. But if she does it one day, I'm going to be like you, Anna Mae. I'm just going to cry. Because it's I did not expect that would ever happen, But her concept of doing that is she likes the spinning wheels, but she will not touch a tricycle. She won't sit on it. She won't go forward. She won't do any of that. But if she does one day, I will cry.
Just don't know. I thought she would know. This is so many unknowns that we manage, isn't it? And you can't ever get too much hope. And then often the professionals will tell you the worst case scenario because they don't want you to get
right.
You have to accept it, you have to mourn it, and you have to process it. But sometimes it can take away the need that we have, all of us, to believe in a better place or a place, I think.
Well, fantastic. That's a positive note to end on. I think I've kind of exhausted my questions, but I would just ask you both. I mean, is there anything else or anything you would like to kind of let the world know about living with rare disease or about your particular rare disease? I'll start with you, Candace. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think if you get that diagnosis, for me, I think I wasn't expecting it, but at the same time, I mean, I didn't think it, would be something that I couldn't overcome. And honestly, I feel like I would like to be an advocate for her and other people more. To be that person that someone could reach out to and say, hey, how did this fare for you? That's for me, the most brightest part is because I can share my experience with others, and I don't want to be, hidden in the world. Because if somebody else comes up with this disease and I can give insight to that, I absolutely want to be that person that they can reach out to and say, this is a person that knows what I'm going through.
Right.
Okay. That's been the brightest point for me.
Okay. Well, maybe somebody out there on this podcast might respond to that. What about you, Anna Mae? What last thoughts would you like to impart to us?
A couple of things. One is that I think 1 in 10 people have a rare disease now statistically. So people need to think about rare disease as not so rare, because I think if you keep saying it's rare, I think it's just that we don't have the evidence yet, and we don't have the research, we don't have the studies. So I hope this is a new paradigm. I'm confident that, in time, then we will know a lot more about, there's thousands of children for sure. There's thousands of adults with MORC2 related disorder that don't know that they have it because they haven't been tested properly. So I'm a big advocate of whole genome sequencing, exome sequencing. We know more now, and let's use the science to advocate for change, and ultimately advocate for a cure for our children, through that amazing things that are happening in the rare disease communities. So for now, we are establishing MORCure. It will be a foundation in the next few months. We will have a website for anyone who wants to connect with me. They can directly connect through this website. And I'll always do my best for the community. For everyone who's living with this condition.
All right, fantastic. Well, send us the link and we can include that in the details podcast, of course.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, thank you.
Anyway, that would be great. Well, brilliant. That just about wraps it up. Thank you so much. Absolutely fascinating talking to both of you. Thank you for sharing so candidly. It's been really good in that respect. So if you have enjoyed this podcast, let us know. Are you caring for somebody with a rare disease? Do you have a carer? What would you like people to know about the challenges of caregiving? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to these podcasts to make sure that you don't miss out. And if you know anyone else who might like to join in the conversation, then please do send them a link. And you can also join the conversation on our Facebook group, which is called the Rare Disease Network. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Candace. Thank you, Anna Mae, for sharing your time and your information with us. And we'll see you next time on Rare Together. Goodbye.